morning, Washington Unified School District. This is Grapevine News, sharing stories, staying connected with you. My name is Elise McGee, reporting from West Fresno Middle School. In this special episode, we talk about the extraordinary life of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and some of his greatest accomplishments. Every year on the third Monday of January, we observe and celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. Day. He was an American civil rights activist leader who inspired millions of people and made significant contributions to extend equal rights to all people regardless of race.
He was born on January 15, 1929, in Atlanta, Georgia. He grew up in a time where segregation and racism was common in the South. In his early childhood, he had a friend that lived across the street. King had attended an all-black school while his other friend attended an all-white school. One day, his friend told him that he couldn't play with him anymore, finding out that his father did not want him playing because of the color of his skin. He was confused and angry when he told his parents, and that's when they discussed with him the history of racism and slavery in America.
During that time, in the early 20th century, Black Americans were treated much differently from white Americans. The laws, specifically the Jim Crow laws, were a collection of state and local regulations or rules that made racial segregation legal. It made it illegal for blacks and whites to mix. These laws existed for about 100 years until 1968. They were denied the right to vote, hold a job, and other opportunities. They had separate neighborhoods, schools, parks, playgrounds, and restaurants. In some states, they were not allowed to use the same water fountains or bathrooms. Those who defied or tried to fight back were often arrested, fined, put into jail, or even died.
When Dr. King grew older and attended colleges in the North, he noticed more people mixing freely compared to the South. He wanted to make a change and end segregation. He wrote countless letters, newspapers, articles, and books, and led marches and protests to persuade people into ending segregation.
When Rosa Parks was arrested for refusing to give her bus seat to a white man, Dr. King and Joanne Robinson, another civil rights activist, organized a boycott on the Montgomery bus system. They inspired others to refuse to ride the bus, and this drew national attention when the citizens were attacked or thrown into jail for refusing to take the bus. Dr. King's home was even bombed. Despite the threats, they persisted, and in 1956, a Supreme Court ruling banned segregated buses. It was a victory that propelled Dr. King and led others in nonviolent protests for civil rights around the country. He was inspired by Mahatma Gandhi, who was known for nonviolence. He led India to become independent from British rule. One of the most famous marches was the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom on August 28, 1963 in Washington, D.C. Hundreds of thousands of people rallied to support the civil rights movement. There, he delivered his iconic "I Have a Dream" speech on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. So even though we face the difficulties today and tomorrow, I still have a dream.
It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Over the years, he inspired millions and led many marches. He was arrested many times, but his work pressured Congress to pass laws to support equality and fight injustices around the nation. The Civil Rights Act in 1964 and Voting Rights Act in 1965 were some of his accomplishments that helped shape America. His March on Washington helped pass the Civil Rights Act, eliminating legalized racial segregation in the United States. He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964 at the age of 35, becoming the youngest person to receive this award. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated on April 4, 1968 by James Earl Ray in Memphis, Tennessee. He had died young but accomplished so much in his short life. He moved many hearts and minds and became an instrument for fairness and equality for all people. His legacy will always be remembered. That's it for this special edition of Grapevine News. This is Elizabeth Escobar signing off from West Fresno Middle School. Go Washington Unified School District.